Mel Broughton from the Free the MBR Beagles campaign. We're here at Camp Beagle. We're outside MBR Acres today. This is a part of a campaign that's been going on over a year now, but certainly over the last 5 or 6 weeks since Camp Beagle established itself, it's drawing a lot of attention from local people and nationally. The reason why we're here is to draw attention to what MBR Acres are doing. MBR Acres are in the business of selling beagle dogs to the research industry. Puppies leave here at 16 weeks old to go to research labs across the UK, are used in toxicity research, which means these dogs will be slowly poisoned to death. They will suffer immensely. And the campaign, what we're aiming for here is to end the trade in these dogs, and also to secure a future for the dogs that still remain here. Now, beagles are used because of their size, because they're docile, they're placid, and they're easy to handle. The very things that make them ideal family pets, and yet here that is betrayed. These dogs are not protected by the Animal Welfare Act like dogs are outside. These dogs are bred as products to be sold to the research industry. They're products, that's what they are. This campaign is now drawing support from across the country, locally and nationally. People want an end to this. I mean, only 3 weeks ago we heard Priti Patel and the Home Office say that the government now needs to look at phasing out animal research. Now, phasing is a difficult word, phasing out was a difficult word, but the reason she said that was because she saw the footage from MBR Acres. She's aware that the public are now outraged by this, and it's about time it stopped. You know, it has to stop. And also, the scientific community is saying increasingly that these dogs are not predictive. They're poor models for researching outcomes in humans, whether it's drug trials or trying to find treatments for human causes. I mean, 9 out of 10 drugs that pass animal tests fail in human trials, clinical trials. So clearly, these animals are not good predictors for outcomes in humans. So therefore, there is no good reason for continuing with this trade. And the public are outraged by it as well. These dogs deserve better from society. The UK is known around the world as a nation of animal lovers. That's what we pride ourselves in. That's what we say we are. And yet we allow a company like MBR Acres, an American-owned company, to breed dogs to sell to research laboratories, knowing that they're going to suffer horribly, and also knowing that scientifically there's no good cause for this anymore. There's no justification. And the outrage that's being felt by the public is reflected in the size of the protests we're getting here. I mean, what you're seeing here is a people's movement for dogs. It's an incredible thing. What this camp and these protests represent is the voice of the general public, and that's why we will continue. That's why we're not going to give this up. And we've been in MBR Acres are currently trying to gain an injunction against the protests, basically to stop the protests, and we're fighting that in the High Court. But it does show how they're prepared to, by the law, to continue trading in dogs. You know, and it's unacceptable. We saw 2 weeks ago the police turn up here. In fact, there was something like 20 riot vans to escort 2 van loads of dogs out of here. Now, that was clearly aimed at sending a message to us that they can do what they want. Well, that's fine, they did it that day, but the fact of the matter is we have seen over the last 50 days that only 1 shipment of dogs has gone out to the laboratory. Now, this is getting critical now, because the dogs that are in there are clearly growing older, they're clearly living in conditions that are not far from ideal. There are serious welfare issues at stake as well. I mean, here we are on a Sunday. The workers come in at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, they leave again at 12. They're not going to be seen again, those dogs are not going to be seen again until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So any issues that may arise with those dogs, no one's there for them. No one will see what, if there's any suffering going on, if any of the dogs are in distress. And that's completely unacceptable. And yet, because they're not covered by the Animal Welfare Act, they're covered by the 1986 Scientific Procedures Act, that's allowable. Somehow this suffering is deemed necessary. Well, it's not necessary. Scientifically it's not necessary. Morally and ethically it's completely indefensible. And we hope very much that we've reached the stage where we can finally draw a line under this and say that these dogs no longer can be sold to laboratories. It has to stop, you know, it has to stop. And I think that's achievable. I think that's very much achievable. And we're seeing that with the kind of protests we're getting here, the kind of support we're getting. There is an appetite for change now, and it's high time the government acted, and it's high time that companies like MBR were stopped from selling these dogs to laboratories and treating what are sentient creatures as just products.
Okay. Can I ask you, what if somebody watching us now, what can they do to help the camp and help you? And you know, what advice would you put out to them?
I think if people want to help, I mean, first and foremost, if you can spare a few hours, come here and be part of it. Secondly, make people aware. Use your social media platforms to tell everyone about the MBR Beagles and their plight. Lobby your MP if you can. Get onto your MP and say to them, look, these dog experiments are scientifically unjustified and they're clearly causing immense amount of suffering. It's time to stop them. So people can use whatever platform they've got to spread the message about the MBR Beagles. Then the pressure grows on MBR to cease the trade. So, you know, there are lots of things people can do. They can get leaflets, they can go out doing outreach or whatever they want to do in their local town to tell everyone about MBR. We need MBR to be on everyone's lips across the country, across the world. Everyone's talking about MBR, everyone's saying it's time to end this trade in dogs. If everyone does that, we can win. We can definitely win. And that will be historic. It'll be historic not only for the dogs here, but it'll be historic in terms of animal rights generally, because what it will show is that people can change what happens for animals. You know, we're too used to seeing terrible stories of animals suffering and being almost paralysed by not being able to do anything about it. Well, look, what you're seeing here is people doing something about it. They're actually winning. They're actually winning an argument and they're winning a struggle. Now, that must inspire you. And I would say that to everyone, be part of it. If you care about these dogs and if you care about what happens to animals, then be part of this, because this is going to succeed. This is going to change history. This is going to be a monumental and, you know, a hugely significant moment going forward about the way animals are treated, and in this instance, laboratory animals. And I would urge everyone, if you've thought about going to a protest and never done it, or you've thought about getting involved and never done it, now's the time to do it. Do it now, because if you do it right now, you're going to ensure that no more dogs suffer. And I can't think of a more powerful message to send out to people. Get involved now.
Well, thank you so much for everything you do and the camp does, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.